Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is part 2 of Sunday's track from scratch stream, where I'm creating an intro for this dubstep track that I'm doing. I'm not going to play through the track again just because it's part 2, and if you're starting with this, you should go to part 1 first, because, come on. And, yeah, so let's back to this. So I just recorded a thing. Now, what happens when you record an FL, when you record MIDI, is that I made an empty channel, empty pattern for it to go into, and I selected the thingy, and I recorded it, you know, pretty well. Yeah. And also it records event edit data. In this case, I gotta minimize exploit, forgot about that, yeah. In this case, it recorded the pitch bend, the pitch wheel, edit, and like, I don't really like what I did with that, so let's see, what does the pitch wheel actually change? Okay, it changes this thing. See, that's actually super important to know because you can change the range of the pitch bend from here. So right now it's essentially 2. I can make it like an octave. And that's actually pretty funny to see, like the resolution of your MIDI. That has to do with your buffer length, which determines essentially how fast it can detect your movement, and also any regular MIDI controller, the range is there's only 127 points total. So between essentially 2 octaves up, 1 octave up, 1 octave down, there's noticeable granularity there, and you can solve that by going into the controller linking panel where it links into the controller and actually engage a little bit of smoothing. And now it's smoother, in case that's a thing you didn't know about. But that's okay, because in this sense, I don't want to use it. And here's the event editing. Event editing is actually how automation used to work in FL before automation clips existed. Is there a way to clear? Like, it's been a long time since I've delete. There we go. Okay. I actually never used event editing. Like around when I realized I could automate things like in FL was when FL5 came out. I think that, no, was it FL5? I think it was FL5. FL5 or 6. No, it was 5 because 5 had the FPC. And that was also when automation clips happened. So that was there a new interesting idea. We're talking about getting the launch pad and then paging over 10 times, and that gets us to there's actually a couple modes of like note layouts on the grid, on the actual pad grid. There's the harmonic mode, and then just a keyboard mode where it has like black key, white key orientation of the actual lights. And then the harmonic mode, like you actually pick a scale essentially, and all the pads are just all the notes that are in the scale. And so you can just like mash your hands around it. It can be kind of neat. The push does that too. Ableton's push. The sound isn't so complex that it's causing me underruns. Like, it's just not reasonable. So actually, let's talk about humanization for a second, because this is kind of interesting. When you look at this, and look at what I've done here, you can see very clearly that, wow, was I inaccurate in terms of timing and like anything. Fortunately, what I'm doing, like in the Harmor, I turned off velocity to volume linking, which means that all the notes I'm playing are always going to be the same volume, unless I do something to it otherwise. But so this means that the difference in velocity levels doesn't matter. I have it on mono mode, which I did in the last video, which means I can only play one note at a time. So the fact that these notes are all overlaying and stupid looking doesn't matter. However, despite this fact, it doesn't actually sound really that bad. And this is because if I made this flawlessly, if whatever arrangement of notes this is supposed to be, if I did it flawlessly, it wouldn't sound right. And not just to the point of like where you only need to make like a little bit of changes. So it's kind of the same deal with like with drum fills. If you make the tom hits and the kick interchange too robotically perfect, it sounds weird. It doesn't sound right. So like this weird little like pitchy like run right there actually is something that I would keep. Except like that right here is a little weird. That's better. That one note was off in the way that I wanted. This project is getting really heavy. So in the original Harmor, I also turned on the phaser to turn on over time. And the phaser is taking care of the vibrato effect. It's a little bit more specialized than an actual vibrato, given that the frequency shape, the harmonic shapes are actually different for each harmonic. But that means every time I break a note, it starts over again. I think what I was trying to do here was yeah, that was a straight up wrong note. Oh, actually, this is the wrong note. That was not the scale. But let's listen to this in context because that can be kind of weird sometimes. That wasn't out of scale, but it was out of the current chord. This would have been yeah, this would have been better if I linked the phaser like most time, like, you know, this is why the first macro in Massive, for example, is linked to vibrato by default. That's because I have to imagine most keyboards have a pitch wheel and a modulation wheel. And the modulation wheel is something that, like, having vibrato on would have worked better. Although in my case, I was using two hands. I would have actually, do I even have it here with me? I don't think I do. I have a pedal. And I would have used an expression pedal to have the vibrato on so that, like, I could bring it back and still have the mono. Because it sounds a little weird when it cuts from massive vibrato to just solidness. Right there actually did kind of sound like a hip-hop-y lead, didn't it? Jesus. Kind of want there to be another note here. I'm gonna start up here, but I'm gonna come down to F. I do want to go there, but this distance is too much. For real, this isn't like well, come on. I don't even think I turned the quality setting of this all the way up. I didn't do anything. going to cheat slightly for this. Actually, I'm going to cheat entirely for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the vibrato increase off of the automation and do it like manually. I'm going to manually automate it as opposed to utilizing automatic pitching. And just for right now, I'm going to have this thing open so I can only hear these two guys. Messy. Nice. And then this. That sounds painful and sharp. That's because there's no phaser yet. So let's do the phaser now. Does necessarily have the cutoff over here. I could also do the space laces thing, which is every time there's kind of a longish note, I could just like do a massive pitch bend down. The longest slide note known to man. That's a little too much. Remember how I did that just now? If you have any two notes that are together and you hold shift and click on it, it will move the end note position of both of them together. This is actually something you could do with clips in the piano roll as well, which could be nice. You can also do it for audio clips. Provided like this one, this guy can't go back any further. That's why it won't let me. Like if I were to make a cut here and move it around, let me do that. This is super cool from when you have stretch mode on, and you can you're essentially warping it sort of with this point. It's a little more complicated than the way I'm making it sound, but that's what that's for. Doesn't work for that, just then because these guys don't line up. Now they do. There you go. That's too much vibrato. The G hurts. It's the 2. It's the 2 of the minor scale. Well, right there anyway. I'm sure it's out of key for wherever else I use it. That's over a chord that doesn't have it in there. People in the chat talk about the G hertz. For these kind of slow notes, it is kind of really bad when they're not like perfectly in time. Or at least more than usual, perfectly in time. Someone did just have a good point about a notch filter being kind of cool on long notes. I do sort of agree with that. So I believe I can do that in here. Band stuff. It's best to kind of flow kind of around the lower harmonics because its effect is more pronounced down there. So let's do tempo based. All a bunch of people in chat being all up in arms. Actually, what would be really cool is to have a switch between the saw and the square during long notes too. That could be nice. Let's keep it flat in the center. This will be more square. If it's, is it just ignoring me now? Okay. That's neat. Let's see what that sounds like. Perhaps not. the waveform type anyway. Still too much vibrato. Actually, I'm pretty okay with that. Okay. Can I move the last note before the hold so it's before the start of the next bar? Talking about this business. I mean, that's a very purposeful thing that I'm doing right there. 100% sure what he's talking about. There's a gate. We're apparently having stream issues. It is telling me that I am dropping lots of frames. That's really annoying. I haven't been having tremendous internet problems recently. So I don't know what's up with that, but things are working out okay on this end. Now I did have a very specific thing in mind for this. Losing my place because I clicked the wrong button. People on the chat have no idea what's happening. Actually, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to turn the stream off real quick. I'm going to count to 20 while I'm doing stuff. And I'll turn it back on. Ow. In addition to doing what I'm doing here, I'm going to have to mute everything around it. So that's this guy. This guy. This guy. This guy. And this guy. I actually just realized I could have had a much easier time if I just did this to the sidechain channel. But whatever. Lots of automation clips. I like doing things the hard way. All right, now I'm going to turn the stream back on. There are so many more efficient ways of doing what I'm doing, but I've chosen to make this way for no good reason. No good reason. That's what I want. From the top. Too many mids in here. I've been decided to put it in right now. I might just put a snare in there. Like I was trying to avoid putting a snare in there, but that's might be what I need to do. Just snares here, yeah, because we're in halftime. Might need to put some like kick build or something in here. I actually had no idea what this intro sounds like at full volume, so I should probably listen to it, which I will. Whoops. Messing around with the lead over the piano part just then. I was also, I had some ideas. But what I should do for the rest of today is I think I should make the outro. So that I can have actually a complete arrangement. Do I have XSplit open still? Jesus. Holy balls. Okay, now XSplit's closed. Increasing the buffer would not help the plight of those who are watching the stream. People are still lamenting the lag. Also, increasing the buffer wouldn't solve the TPU issues I'm having right now, because just as usual, whenever I'm not streaming or recording, I'm recording this, right? That'd be silly if I wasn't. My performance is usually like 4 times better. I could pull a Codename Hurricane and just go straight to piano. Oh yeah, I forgot I'm in the wrong key. I changed key. See, I went up, where did I go? I went up a third, right? Yeah. Let's see what that sounds like. I probably wouldn't use this entire pattern. That compression though. So I kind of want a version of this that peters out, but I do also want to have like the rest of the stuff in here too. I'm probably not gonna have it go that long. Get it about there. Let's get the chords from earlier back in here. Although I have to also make them. Someone in chat just just go back to the original key after the drop. That'd be kind of harsh. I think I will at least put a kick in there with the crash. Maybe even that impact from the beginning. Yeah, the part where that still doesn't sound right because it's not. Ready? Poor man's fade out. is happening here? I change it every time. Why is that wrong? So what am I doing in the piano? I'm on the 7. It didn't sound right because the chords were on the 6, and I should have kept these guys on the 7. These guys, however, need to go on the 7 because they're not on the 6. So that's F sharp. C sharp, but I don't want to have the next guy do it because the next guy sounds right. In fact, let's just. Sure, why not? And although, hold on, 7, so it's major. Does that? So sometimes this happens in some sample libraries, also just another FL stuff. I have these 2 overlapping MIDI notes. And if I didn't have the same note, this wouldn't be a problem. But because it's the same note, it kind of looks at that overlap as a MIDI end. Because a note has a note on and a note off. So note ons turn the note on, and then the end of the note is the note off. It tells it has to actually tell it to stop. It's not just something that just happens. So then right before this note off happened, a note on happened. So that means that, okay, I had note on again, and then note off, and it killed both notes. That's why that's happening. Easy enough solution includes so that's what happens. And that's why that's ever happened, if that's ever happened to you. So now this goes into a higher energy version of this, but I don't want it to do that. No, I ended with the part where I deleted this. Someone in the chat just mentioned that then if I did the tempo to slide down slightly at the end there, then it really would be Codename Hurricane. Although I have synths in here, it's not just piano. The end of Codename Hurricane was just piano. So, all right. So if the song did end there, it would be. Oh, okay, that's whatever's happening upstairs. It would be 4 minutes, 18 seconds long. I actually thought it'd be longer than that, but I guess whatever. So it's almost done, and I'm really fucking hungry, and I want to eat some food. So I'm gonna play through the track and call it a day for today, because whatever. I'm gonna play more with some playing keyboards and stuff, because that was a lot of fun. I don't know when I got good at that, and like I'm not saying that was like really, really amazing and wonderful, but like I used to be seriously bad at like improv keyboard stuff. Just like super terrible. Like I couldn't do it. Like I've had 11 years of like intense like classical piano training, and all that I really taught me how to do was to memorize sheet music. And I had really awesome finger dexterity. I could do all that really well, but like do the jazz notation, which is just give you keys and let you go ham. Like I couldn't do it. That wasn't something I could do. And so I am actually rather surprised that that was something I could do as well as I did. And like the only logical explanation is that the keyboards I have attached to my bass that I play in my metal band actually have increased my piano skills, which is a silly notion. Anyway, let's listen to the track. I'm gonna listen to a full volume because I haven't in a while, except for the last time I did, but I want to listen to the whole thing. All right, so that track's definitely not perfect. It's got a lot of weirdness to it. A bunch of stuff I kind of like picked out of there. People were saying it's not mastering yet, and like there is actually sort of mastering, and by that I mean there's mastering compression, and it's at loudness, and it doesn't sound like that for you because I had to actually turn down the master track output going into XSplit because even if I can't, it's not very precise. So if I got it close to 0 dB, you'd probably clip into the story, whatever. And YouTube never plays it at full volume anyway, so when you listen to it, you're not hearing it at full volume or even at representative quality, which is a lot of fun. Which is why when this eventually, happens for real, you'll hear it and it'll make more sense. Also, damn, some serious issues with my performance on this today. I think next time I do a stream, I'll make sure to put the buffer up to 1024. I do have actually a pretty ridiculously low buffer. 14 milliseconds for 534 samples. It's actually at 512 right now. Or is it at 256? I don't remember. Let's look. It's at 512. So, yeah. The total delay, though, is that, like, this isn't really buffer delay. This is actually, like, 100% delay as a result of also things like plugins and whatever. This is plus plugins. But, so the irregular output is that, so the regular is that, whatever. And it's not like it's a big difference. It's probably, like, 13 milliseconds if it wasn't for that. But, so that's that. Also, people were asking what mic I have. This is an Audio-Technica AT2020. Although also it says P48 on it. I'm not totally sure what that means by that. But if you look for Audio-Technica AT2020, it's a condenser microphone. It's very good. Yeah. So I can, point being, I could stand to increase my buffer and it wouldn't be too bad. Although a lot of the performance issues are coming from using East-West the way that I am. Although, damn, like, I guess the piano patch is pretty goddamn intense. The way that I do my East-West stuff, because East-West stuff by default doesn't load in the RAM. It streams from your hard drive. So if your hard drive's slow, then you have a kind of a bottleneck there. But I have two 512 SSDs and then RAID 0 that I have my East-West stuff loaded on, so it's king fast. So that's not my problem. But I'm streaming and XSplitting and all that stuff, so it's difficult. Oh, actually, my XSplit recording, I am also recording to that SSD drive for the same reason. So doing it to and from might actually be the root of my problems. Anyway, if you have any questions about any of this, let me know. And as usual, have a nice day.